Molly,
Hi.
what are you doing in my office?
Oh, luxuriating. Took a nap
Hmm,
on your couch.
hmm. Interesting. I'm at your house
All
and I have just raided your fridge and given your kids lots of candy. Good luck tonight.
right.
What's on your mind?
Oh, everything feels like the world is crumbling all around us.
It is.
Yeah.
We need to do things to fix it, but you are correct. It's the end of the world as we know it, and I feel fine, as my good friends REM used to sing.
Well, I don't feel fine.
Probably because you're younger.
Yeah, I know. That is the thing. It's like I get how ugh, there are some older people in my life who have very big opinions for being closer to death than they are. Just, you know what I mean? Like
Yes, yeah.
making a
I
mess.
I'm
Yeah.
in between. I know who you're talking about.
Yes.
Um and we all have people in our lives. I mean, look, there's just as many young people who say well, the Greenland ice sheet is melting, but that doesn't affect me. They're just wrong, right? So it's but I'm curious what brought on this malaise of yours.
Oh, it was when because I don't know if people know this, but I'm gonna tell them that I'm the one who helps you run everything on spilled milk. So because let's be honest, I am probably more when it comes to posting like bloggy things, that's more of my wheelhouse than yours. So you just send me all of your stuff and I
Well,
post it.
you're the director of communications
Damn
at
straight.
our company, and Spilled Milk is your relate with Substack is you manage that whole thing
Yes,
for us.
I sure do. I sure
Yeah. So
do.
what's your point? Let me guess. It was last Tuesday's essay about tomatoes and climate and whatnot.
Yeah, that was it. Posted that, went to bed feeling like I don't know. I mean, how many? I've already given up the single use straws. Like, what else can I be doing?
What
It's
what
a
was
lot.
what was what was our audience reaction? I'm assuming very strong.
Yeah, people have a lot of opinions, lots of interesting comments and thoughts.
Hmm.
But of course, and this is always my question too, whenever I read things that are really like, the world's burning, everything sucks. It's like, okay, but like, are we done bitching about it? So what do we do now? Right?
Yep. Yes.
What can I do to help change things? Because just complaining doesn't really
Right.
would like to
Nope.
contribute more than an opinion.
And I would let me see if I'm right before I get into some of that. Are you are you of the opinion that there's only so much uh car sharing, uh straw uh straw product changing that
Right.
one can do where you sort of feel like I'm not making a difference here.
Right.
This
Like
is
I'll shave a couple
ridiculous.
minutes off my shower, but like,
Yep.
what my showers for a lifetime will not have the same, I mean, they're nothing compared to like Big Egg or like construction or,
Almond farming.
exactly. Right.
Yeah. Uh, well, I get this a lot,
Mm-hmm.
mostly from my child, who's, I mean, he's not a child anymore. I mean, he is, but he's, 17 and a half. So he has opinions and is in charge of enough things in his own life. Um, and I speak to a lot of young people who are really frustrated. And I go back to some of the food social justice issues that we've been fighting for 20, 30 years that changed for the better once we made the change of policy and law our goal rather than changing hearts and minds. And I'll give you an example.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, 20, well, 10 years ago, I used to say yes to going to cook a course at a gala where we're going to raise money, and a portion of those proceeds would go to a hunger relief organization,
Mm-hmm.
right? I don't do that really anymore. And the reason is we were throwing dimes into a bucket that had quarter-sized holes.
Right.
So some of the dimes would stick in there, but a lot would fall through. And a bunch of us, real culinary social justice warriors, Tom Colicchio, Jose Andres, and I could name a whole lot more. People like Michelle Nishan and others, friends of mine. We sort of, in an ad hoc way, through a lot of different conversations at that time, decided that what was really, really important was, yes, to say okay to some of those offers because of the visibility that it gained, but
Mm-hmm.
to really focus efforts on changing policies and laws rather than small donations to organizations, regardless of the great work that they did. We could better to sit on the phone for 15 minutes with a rich person and say, would you write a check for 50,000
Mm-hmm.
to this group? I'll do that all day long because it's a really good use of my time. But I think there are concrete things we can do related to our climate crisis. And by the way, for those that don't know, I'm assuming wherever you're gonna post this, you'll link to the article that I wrote, or the essay
Yep.
that I wrote about this. For those that haven't read it yet, the point was that because of the decade-long drought that we're in the Southwest in California, I was aware. There's been some reportage, obviously, along the lines of what I posted, and reportage in general over the last couple of years about what I posted. But I knew through some of my friends in Washington that government agencies were going to start to intervene because of record low levels on the Colorado River, in the biggest reservoirs in our country that are in the Southwest. And most importantly, with the two biggest piece of news that I had seen come across my desk about tomato farms and our beef industry, most notably that beef cattle farmers, ranchers, were selling off cattle, were bailing out on this year's animal raising. It was the worst year in a long time. So fewer calves born, inability to water and feed them, higher mortality rate. It's cheaper just to stop than to try to fix the problem, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so beef prices, you won't see it immediately. It takes kind of 6 months to kind of catch up based on the slaughter age of animals. But 2023 will see, I think, some astronomical spikes in poultry and pork, beef, lamb prices. I think we're just going to see them get bigger than they already are. At the same time, this drought in in California, I was shocked when I learned this. I started to do some research. 25% of the world's tomatoes, not our tomatoes, the world's tomatoes, come from California. Now, the vast majority of those are tomatoes for processing, tomato sauce, ketchup, tomato paste, all the rest of that kind of stuff. And of course, Dusty is trying to call me right now while I'm doing this.
Yeah.
The fascinating part to me is that these, a steak, ketchup, frozen pizza,
Mm-hmm.
are our favorite foods.
Right.
So, and by the way, as goes the Central Californian and Southern Californian tomato crop, so also goes the Northern California, where wildfires are raging, all the rest of that, and there is a drought. Um, uh, Grape harvest, which through climate, not only are fewer grapes being able to be harvested, but they're now harvested depending on region around the world later or earlier in the year drastically, which affects flavor and all these other things. So we're losing things like wine or grapes for kids, and we're relying on South American product in our table grape in the supermarket, because domestic grapes are just increasing tremendously in price, and it's just a matter of time. It's going to flip around. So within a couple of years, you're going to be having these horrific ecological existential problems due to climate change in the other growing regions of the world. And we already know that cacao beans are threatened, chocolate, tobacco is being threatened, cigarettes, that's a good thing, but bad for global economy. So, I mean, the climate is affecting food production to such a degree now that not only will there be ketchup shortages, there'll also be frozen pizza shortages. And in a way, there was a part of me, and please,
I already know what you're gonna say.
listen to the whole thing, audience, where you send me nasty letters.
We're just gonna pull this
It's
out.
in a way, it made me perversely happy,
I
because
get it.
for all those people who were like, saw those videos 2 years ago of the Antarctic ice shelf just crumbling and said, well, this doesn't affect me. Okay. How about the fact that there's not going to be ketchup on your shelf?
Right.
Or that frozen pizzas that we rely on, many families on a budget have a night where they serve frozen pizza and salad from a bag.
Here we are.
To afford, you know, the other night of the week where they buy pork chops. Well,
right.
You know, if frozen pizza starts to go up in price dramatically and ketchup is unavailable or goes up in price dramatically, or both, as I believe will be the case, we have a really more serious problem. So to get back to your question, what do we do about this? I think there are some really sensible things. I would encourage people, yes, change the way you use plastic. Don't use single-use plastic. Single-use plastic should be eliminated, right? But I think following that individual decision, I think you have to, more important than donating money is always communication and education. So I tell people all the time, copying and pasting my essay or any one of the other groups of news info resources that you have by going online anywhere. And I know that you're posting a bunch on my Twitter account, and I'm always reposting ones on my Twitter account. You go to my timeline and cut and paste some stuff and just send it to everyone in your email address book and say, I learned this today, right? Let's write Congress people. Let's make phone calls to congressional offices. They actually listen. I hate to tell you, they do. But mobilize your friends, right? Get more people in your community to be aware that this is affecting us. It's affecting us now. And to your point earlier, it's an existential problem for your children and my children, right? Who, while different ages, are essentially within the same generation, right? So, you know, if we want a world for them that doesn't look like, you know, a sci-fi movie, we got to do something about this now. So I do want people to email all their friends. I want them to pursue calling and writing our leaders in Washington.
And that doesn't have to be scary. It's not like you're actually going to get like your congressman on the phone.
They don't. Their staff answers and they log it. And it's a petition that you electronically send around with 100 of your friends' signatures on it. that means something to your congressional leaders. It means something. And the more people that we get talking about this, the better. Now, part of the other good reason that I really liked the fact that the tomato crop and the beef crop and all that was being so savaged is that there's really big lobbying groups behind California farming,
Mhm.
Texas and Oklahoma and, you know, Kentucky, and yes, California beef associations. There's national associations for all those. Um, and they have tremendous sway in Washington because they're spending more money on lobbyists, et cetera. Uh, so finally, some of the more conservative groups, some of the more liberal groups, everyone finds himself on the same side.
Right.
It be and it's not because we don't care. I care because I see the Greenland ice shelf melting, and I know what that means down the road. A
Right.
lot of other people, uh, you know, say it's the NIMBY thing, not in my backyard, but I think that will really change.
Well, yeah, when it starts
This
affecting your frozen pizza night.
Well, it's supermarket prices. I
Mhm.
don't think there's anyone listening to this that shops, regardless of whether you have no money, some money, or more money, uh, who hasn't noticed how ridiculously expensive everything is in the supermarket all of a
Mhm.
sudden. It's crazy.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's not.
cherry tomatoes, and I'm not talking about like super spendy ones. I'm talking about
Heritage, blah, blah, blah.
yeah,
Mhm.
commercial cherry tomatoes in my supermarket have doubled in price versus last summer. Butter has doubled in price. I mean, it's staggering. And obviously the reason is the health of animals. And by the way, butter is stored for a long time and it's going to get worse in the fall, right? So these companies are now unable to provide the product to other companies with whom they have contracts. So a
Mhm.
farm grows all of the ketchup for McDonald's, right? And they have to deliver a certain amount of tonnage of processable uh, tomatoes into the chain that ultimately winds up in little packets that
Mhm.
are co-branded for McDonald's, right? And you know, McDonald's, I think, is also the largest purchaser of slicing tomatoes in the world. At least they were a
I don't
couple years ago, and
Yeah.
I'm sure they still are. In other words, because they put tomatoes on hamburgers or whatever, uh, they're the largest purchaser, right? They're the largest purchaser of eggs. I mean, it's just like it's crazy,
Right.
right?
Well, they're
So
McDonald's.
yeah, so you know, now that they're paying more, and everyone is paying more. That we now have, you know, big business all the way down to, you know, uh, socialist utopian activists like myself on the same page. We got to do something about it, right?
Mhm.
So hopefully that happens. I would encourage everyone to vote with their wallets and to support restaurants, food stores, anywhere that food is eaten or purchased, and support the ones that have a value system in place that aligns with your own. I'll give you an example. Scallops have almost doubled in price this year. And
Mhm.
I know a lot of restaurants that still keep them on their menu and put a really large price tag on the finished dish. I support restaurants that have swapped that ingredient out for something else.
Yes, that's
Let's
a great
let's
point.
take the let's take the pressure off those places.
Yeah.
So
But how do you
I'm
know which things are under pressure?
uh become that was going to be my next point, but you
Okay.
asked, become an educated consumer,
Okay. What are our resources?
right? So you can go online to everything from the, you know, Monterey Bay Aquarium seafood watch list to the
They have an app.
environmental working group, and you'll put up a whole list of great resources for this to find out uh what foods are suffering greatly now from either climate disaster, incredible price increases due to some form of climate disaster,
Mhm.
um, uh, and or some other reason. And if you Google, simply Google foods with greatest price increase, you will scroll down, you will find more information than you ever care to see. It's incredible because this is such a hot button topic now that a decent sized portion of the public's awareness level has switched from whatever else it was caring about onto this issue.
Mm-hmm.
But back to the places that you support. Um, you got to make personal decisions by voting with your wallet. So, am I going to try to eat less red meat? Absolutely. Am I going to try to eat more vegetables that are locally grown for as long as I can here in Minnesota? Well, we already do, but I'm going to do more.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to support restaurants that are neighborhood owned, that are making the right decisions. And it's really easy. Your favorite neighborhood restaurants, talk to the owner, the manager. By the way, restaurants are small little ecosystems. They're already swapping out those ingredients. Half the restaurants in America that had scallops on the menu last year don't have them on this year, right? Meat portions have come down and prices have increased in restaurants. You have a choice. You don't have to eat the beef option at your local neighborhood restaurant. Now, at a steakhouse, it's a different story, right? Because steakhouses offer 15 different cuts of beef, a double bone pork chop, a supersized piece of fish, etc. Maybe you want to reconsider that. Now, for most Americans, because of the cost increases, those kind of meals are the stuff of fantasy. So I almost discount. There's almost no reason to talk about it anyway, because the 1/10 of the 1%ers that still go to those places are still going to go to those places.
Totally. Well, and the thing is too, kind of along these lines, you know, I am a born and bred Midwesterner. Like, I grew up in a family where if there's no meat in a dinner, it is not dinner. You know what I mean? And that's not really true for me specifically, but it's true for my family. So I also think it's important that people reframe what dinner is, reframe what's supposed to be on your plate, and get more open-minded to trying new things. Maybe, guess what, a lot of people don't like vegetables because their parents sucked at cooking them, right? Like, overcook them, didn't season them. So maybe just like challenge yourself to try a new ingredient once a week, once a month, whatever.
Not only that, you're spot on.
Yeah,
We all have to do that for our families, but
totally.
you can also explore different ways to season them. We've talked about this before and privately, and I'm sure we've mentioned it publicly. But when Noah was little, all his friends in the neighborhood would come to our house for dinner, and I would always get a call from a parent almost after every dinner who would say, "My kid came home and said she ate broccoli at your house," and I'm like, "Yeah, she housed it." I
Yeah.
mean, and like they were like, "We can't get her to eat broccoli. What sort of magic are you?" And it was always like how you
Oh,
cooked it. And so yes, was mine well cooked in terms of timing, crisp, tender? Sure, but the kids don't care whether it's a little. They care if it's a little undercooked, because cruciferous vegetables like broccoli have a strange flavor when they're undercooked. That, think of the last time you ate raw broccoli
mhm.
versus cooked. It gets much sweeter when it's cooked all the way through. But sauteing it, I'm talking about enough for like 4 people, with a tablespoon or two of each of butter, brown sugar, and fish sauce. By the time you spread it out, you're not giving anyone, especially a child, too much fat, sugar, or salt.
Mhm.
It just evens out amongst those 4 or 5 portions.
Right.
But that combination of butter, brown sugar, and fish sauce in equal parts is like a magical seasoning for foods. It could not be more craving intensifying. And I kept a jar of that mixture in my fridge and would just put a dollop of it in everything, and Noah and his friends would just crush it. Now, if you told them it's fish sauce,
Yeah.
Um,
No, thank
it-
you. That's why
yeah,
you name everything. Give everything a fun name.
but that little saltiness made it's like putting salt on a watermelon, made and that little bit of fermentation made it more craveable because of the glutamates, and that little bit of saltiness made everything sweeter and richer.
Mhm.
And you can play those with those tricks, and there are phenomenal websites out there written by moms just like you or people like me with like tips for getting kids to eat their vegetables. That right now, if you're not looking at that, you're ignoring one of the most prolific resources on the interwebs.
Right.
So you are spot on. We need to reframe what dinner is. I did stuffed peppers for my kid the other day, and I put it on a pool of tomatillo salsa, and it was stuffed with like rice and more veg and stuff like that. And he didn't even know there was no meat in it
No. No,
at all.
if you cook it right, you don't even notice.
That is correct. You and I were cooking grilled eggplant at my house yesterday, and that is a
Mhm.
fantastic vegetable when prepared the right way. So you got to vote. You got to vote with your wallet. There are, phenomenal resources online for people to explore simply by Googling. It is incredible how people. It's like plugging and unplugging your computer when there's a problem. Everyone's like, "Well, did you Google it?" People are afraid of disinformation on the internet.
Should
And
be.
while there is a ton of disinformation out there on certain issues, those first things that pop up on the internet are wonderful roundup articles in incredibly trustworthy resources about basic things you can do with your family. And, we'll put a list of good resources down below for people to check out. It's vitally important. If you take one thing away from this, if people want to make a difference in the existential issues around climate change, we not only have to keep making the personal choices that are sometimes we think of as fruitless, but we need to educate our friends about why we're doing it.
Right.
Be the neighborhood nudge,
Right. And
and for a
don't be
lot
a
of
dick about it
people,
though. That's the
hmm,
thing. You can't be a dick about it. Like,
of course not.
give information without being like snotty.
Well, this is why I love here's something I learned today, thought you might be interested.
Right.
It's super, super, super simple.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's vitally important because it is now look, the $500 billion that's being dumped into fighting climate change that our president just signed into law is going to make a huge difference. But it's going to be a drop in the bucket if we don't all get behind personal choices in
Mm.
our own families as well and galvanize your own micro communities, communities at large, municipalities, right? And do send letters and calls to your congressional offices. They listen. There are staffers there who accumulate this information. If they see that people are
Look
eager
at trends, right?
to talk, of course they do. They all do. It makes a difference. It really truly makes a difference. I have a ton of experience with it, and trust me, it works.
All right.
All right.
Look 'em-
Normally, I end this by telling you to go fork yourself, but here I'm just going to give a generous tip of the hat for bringing up an issue that I think is very, very important.
Yeah, of course. And thanks to everyone in the comments who brought it up as well.
Yes, yes. I promise not to be a scourge all the time, but sometimes an issue comes up where I want everyone to know sort of what's really going on.
Yeah. Well, thanks.
All right.
And
See you later.
yes, I
Go
was gonna
fork
say it.
yourself.
Yeah.
No, 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 you can.
Oh, okay. Go
You
for
can.
yourself.
Thank you.
All right. Bye.
See you later. Bye.